Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about the film Park Row, which is an American film produced in 1952. It is set in New York in the 1880s, and we can see an urban environment where many cultural things were happening, which is true when it comes to the main cities of the era, not only in the United States. And then we can see some journalists. One of them was fired because he was critical of the newspaper where he worked, and his colleagues supported him and ended up losing their jobs too. And then in the bar, they started talking, and it appeared a man who said that he wanted to go famous and that he jumped out of a very high bridge and that he wanted this history to be published in the newspapers so he could get famous. And the newspaper man said that he couldn't do it because he didn't have any job anymore. And then he was overheard by an elder guy, and he said that he likes journalism very much, but he didn't have the proper talent to go into this business. But he liked the way the journalist talked and asked him if they could be partners, because this elder guy, he had money, he had vacant offices, vacant machines, and then the other journalist, he could be his partner with his work and talent. He accepted that, and his other colleagues were also fired. They were hired on the spot, and they started a newspaper called The Globe. And everyone there was very idealistic. They wanted to publish many kinds of things. They wanted to talk about things that other newspapers didn't have the courage to talk. However, there was already another established newspaper nearby, which was called The Star, and it was led by a woman called Charity, who was a heiress of a kind of newspaper empire, and she only wore black clothes, which gave her a very sinister appearance. And then at first, Charity didn't mind about the competition. Her Star Journal was already a very known newspaper after all. But after a while, the Globe started to become a very popular newspaper because the crew, the newspaper people there, they had creative ideas and people liked the newspaper. And then Charity got very upset. At first, she wanted to get one of the main employees of the Globe to work for her, but she failed. And then she started to resort to very dishonest methods. So she talked about it with another guy, who was the second in command in the Star newspaper, and told him to have some violent methods. And then newsstands were destroyed, and there were some riots, and even a very young employee of the Globe newspaper, he was hit and he was in the hospital with the risk of losing both legs. And then Charity went to the Globe facilities and told the publisher that she didn't want things to go so far. Yes, she gave the order to forceful things to be done, but she didn't want things to reach such a violent point. Of course, that the editor didn't believe her, and then it started a war between both newspapers. The machines were broken, people were beaten, there was sabotage and all these kind of things. And then on top of everything, when the globe seemed to have a more modern machine that would enable them to produce more issues during the day, that would make their work easier, then there was a bomb. And when the place was bombed, some people were hurt, and this more modern machine was destroyed. And then the editor was devastated, and he told everyone that they could look for other jobs, that it was over. He went to a bar and got really, really drunk until he fell asleep. And then on the following day, when he woke up, still in the hangover, he was surprised to realize that his newspaper was published after all. And he was puzzled and couldn't understand how could it happen. And then his employees told him that the machine was fixed on time after all. And then Charity, seeing how violent things become, she regretted her actions, and then she said that the employees of the Globe could use the facilities of the Star to print the newspaper. She gave the paper, she gave the ink and everything, so they could print the newspaper on the following day as it was planned. Of course that this happy ending is a little bit unrealistic, because it shows Charity all of a sudden regretting her actions, and she even said that she killed the Star, so she killed her newspaper, so the Globe could be born. And then there are many mentions throughout the film to Gutenberg, to the founding fathers of the United States, of freedom of the speech, why it was so important. Many people important to the press were mentioned. And this film, it looks like it was planned as a homage to journalism, progress, and why it's important to have good values. Another interesting point, if you have seen my previous videos, when I talked about the end of 19th century, when cinema was invented, the easier access to entertainment, to information, we can see this environment in the film. When the newspapers became an important part of people's lives, in big cities, lots of cultural things happening, progress, new machines, optimism. And it was exactly in this environment where cinema was also invented, where the newspaper became so powerful, where the theater consolidated itself even more, urbanization. Many things that I already mentioned in previous videos can be seen in this film. Something interesting for modern day audiences is that they can see how a newspaper was produced in the old days. It was a really manual job. Of course, there were machines and so on, but it still requires manual abilities, and how things developed so much. And the dream of idealistic people to publish things, to talk their minds, to inform people, which is something that we can even see in content producers nowadays, and people who talk in the internet about how they feel and how wonderful it is to have this freedom. And it started right centuries ago, over 1 century ago. And it's really interesting to see that it was in this environment where cinema was invented, where journalism flourished. So it's a really interesting film. It's one of a kind. It's very optimistic, but it gives a good idea of how life was like at the time. That's all for now, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you.